welcome to the India Development Debate right here on ET Now. I'm Supriya Srinathan. Joining me in Mumbai is my colleague Sandeep Gurumurthy. The big semi-final is over and the BJP has retained Gujarat and Western Himachal Pradesh from the Congress, but the jury is still out on whether the numbers are good enough for a celebration just yet. Proving most exit polls wrong yet again, the Congress put up a better than expected show in Modi's home state, taking its total tally to 80. On the other hand, BJP has clearly failed to impress, failing to even reach the three-figure mark. As per the current trends, the BJP is likely to win 99 out of the 182 assembly seats, way behind its current tally of 115. Forget about party president Amit Shah's projections of 150. To the credit of the BJP, the saffron party has managed to win Gujarat for the sixth consecutive term, fighting anti-incumbency and the after effects of demonetization and the GST.
Now, the numbers tell a different story, though. Contrary to popular perception, traders and small businessmen have come out in full support of the BJP, while rural voters have put their weight behind the Congress. In fact, except Saurashtra, where BJP suffered big losses, the Modi factor has remained intact in other parts of the state. Overall, BJP's vote share has actually improved, while the truck with the likes of Hardik, Kalpesh and Jignesh has also boosted Congress's prospects. So what are the lessons that Gujarat provides before the 2019 general elections? Will the Modi government look to win back the rural folk with a populist budget? Does it mean a step backward for the reform agenda? More importantly, what will be the economic cost of any such disruption? That's what we're discussing tonight with our top panel of experts on the India Development Debate right here on ET Now, the only show that puts a spotlight on development. Joining us on the show tonight is Shaina NC, spokesperson of the BJP, Ajay Kumar, national spokesperson of the Congress, and Jharkhand Pradesh Congress chief, Swaminathan Iyer, consulting editor of ET Now, Sadanand Dume, resident fellow of the American Enterprise Institute and columnist, and of course Rashesh Shah, president of FICCI, with the view of the industry. Let's take it to you, Sadanand, and if I may sort of kick off this debate with you. Sadanand, how have you read this mandate? I mean, it almost appears as if the BJP sort of is continuing with its winning march. What's your key takeaway from this verdict?
Yeah, I would say that, a couple of quick things. The first is that obviously the BJP remains the dominant political party in India. It is not easy to hold on to a government 6 times in a row, and at the same time win about a 2/3 majority in Himachal Pradesh. So clearly this is a victory for the BJP. I think the story of Congress revival is probably being exaggerated somewhat. It's certainly true that Rahul Gandhi ran a spirited campaign and that Congress feels more confident because they feel that they have a leader who is actually willing to lead for a change. But that said, the numbers don't look that great for them. BJP, in fact, improved its vote share to 50%. And despite the hardship caused by demonetization and an overly complex GST, the BJP still managed to pull off this fairly significant victory in terms of vote share, though I do agree that many people tend to look at these things in terms of seat share. And if the BJP cannot cross that psychologically important 100 seat mark, it will certainly be seen as not as great a victory as they would have hoped.
Swami, I'm going to ask you this question, and this really has to be about 2019. And I think this show has to be a look ahead. Does this verdict tell you that 2019 is not a done deal?
I would say that this suggests that Modi is going to be on a strong wicket in 2019 unless something goes dramatically wrong with the economy. And in fact, it's possibly that instead of something going dramatically wrong, that the economy improves quite substantially in 2018-19. Because the current financial year, having had that double whammy of the demonetization and the GST glitches, has slowed the economy down in 2017. I can see 2018 actually much faster GDP growth, which would therefore be a positive. In these difficult conditions, Modi has won UP, he has won Gujarat, he has won Himachal Pradesh. I think it's an impressive achievement. At the end of it all, there was a lot of lowly sloganeering. There was this communal and ultra-nationalist sloganeering by the BJP. There was this casteist sloganeering by the Congress party. I don't think those ultimately are what determined the things. What determined the outcomes was actual performance. And I think in Gujarat, the performance of the BJP was good enough, and in Himachal, the performance of the Congress was not good enough. What does this mean for 2019? I would say it means that while there are various rumblings of discontent against the BJP, while there are sections that are worried, sections that have been losers in demonetization, in GST, sections that have been losers in the drought and the agricultural stagnation. There have also been a very large number of winners who are happy with what is happening. And because the winners don't kick up a large fuss and the losers do, there is a tendency to mistake noise for the way the popular vote is going. I would say what we've seen is it shows that the people who agitate and make a lot of noise and have large meetings, they are a vocal minority and they may or may not add up to a majority, and in the current circumstances, they don't. Therefore, I would say BJP is on a strong wicket going into the 2019 elections. I would add that if you look at what the history shows, it shows that the BJP vote share in a general election is higher than in the state elections. So if it has achieved what it has achieved in UP, in Gujarat and in Himachal, and if it's going to do better than that in the next general election, then I would say the BJP is on a good wicket.
I think the BJP is on a good wicket. Let's take it to Rashesh Shah before we open it to our politicians on the panel. Rashesh Shah, we saw some amount of nervousness in the markets, with the Sensex swinging about 1,000 points in, in trade today. Is the possibility of a challenger to Modi now creeping in? A possibility of a challenger to Modi in 2019, is that disturbing the markets? Because, our markets are trading at price-earning multiples of well over 20. They've already priced in stability and continuity of policies. They've almost priced in a BJP victory in 2019. And is that what's disturbing markets according to you? Rashesh Shah.
Ultimately, in politics, challenge is always going to be there, and especially in the Indian election system, where the electoral arithmetic plays a big role, and as well as other combinations and all. But overall, I think we should always remember that voters react very, very differently for state elections versus the central election. That has been shown again and again in India. So on the whole, we should not just take one result and extrapolate it for the general elections in 2019. I think second, no politician, and I think the current government as well as I think everybody knows you cannot take anything for granted. You should not assume anything. You need to work hard for that. And the real mood of the elections you will get to know only in the last 3-4 months of the election. And even after that, I think these are always going to be, very evenly balanced because of the electoral maths in India in the first past the post system. So overall, I'm not concerned. I'm not worried about stability of the economic policy in the government. But as I said, nobody should take anything for granted.
This India development debate is really a look-ahead show. We're now going to do so much of the analysis that we've done previously in our shows. This is a look-ahead. We're setting the tone and the tenor of what follows from here on to 2019, both in economics and politics, and which is why I'm going to ask my guests to indulge me in a look-ahead, because that will be a more constructive exercise as far as this discussion is concerned. Shaina NC, I'm going to ask you this question about, yes, you won, and the winner takes it all in politics anywhere in the world, and why should Gujarat or Himachal Pradesh be an exception? But the fact is that you have been curtailed short of that 100 mark, and the Congress has been able to put together a 80-number tally on the table, which by all standards is respectable for a party that has been out of power for 22 years. Does this verdict put the spotlight back on the index of opposition unity in a lot of ways?
This is a mandate for a party that has been ruling for 22 years and is about to make history by ruling for 27 years only on the good governance plank. So I think it's quite the reverse. This is a mandate for us in terms of our good work. The fact that there has been no anti-incumbency tells you 2-3 things. One, that Modi ji's phenomena, and I'd like to say it is a phenomena, because it's not just about his charisma, his hard work, his integrity, his doing away with corruption, but delivering on the ground has facilitated for us to come back to power. And Supriya ji, let me please tell you, as they say in Hindi, Jo jeeta wohi Sikandar. We can keep on analyzing and getting into the trivia of who supported and who didn't, what were the reasons, whether it was a caste combination, whether it was a division of votes, whether there were small margins, whether big Congress leaders lost, but eventually we are forming the government. So I think that whether it is Himachal or whether it is Gujarat, the fact that the Bharatiya Janata Party has 19 states in this country of ours, which is diverse, which has multiple issues, and as Mr. Swaminathan said, yes, UP was a mandate to do away with divisive politics, to absolutely say that yes, we want to stand with our leadership, who we believe is going to deliver on the ground and off, and has done so in Gujarat too. So it is a repeat. And I would say that on this forum of yours, there's been a lot of discussion to say that urban voters post GST and demonetization have supported and rural have not. I'd like to differ there.
Shana, we will debate that. Shana, if I may interrupt you, please.
Combinations which were played up by the...
Shana, if I may interrupt you, please, that's something that we will talk about in detail. This is an 1 hour program. Let me get in opening comments from all my panelists, and I'm going to go to Ajay Kumar and let him comment on the point that you made on the fact that Jo Jeeta, Wahi Sikandar. That's an absolutely fair point. Ajay Kumar, is the Congress going to celebrate or take heart in a consolation performance, or does, at the end of the day, winning is all that matters? But I want to weave in a larger question, because again, we want to make the show a little more look ahead. I'm sure enough and more debates have happened across news channels across the day. So we want to make this a little more look ahead. Does this, in a sense, give Rahul Gandhi the ability to galvanize the opposition in the build up to 2019? Because trust me, that's what people everywhere in the country are looking for. Can this galvanize him to be the central force of the anti-Modi bloc in 2019? Is that possible? Is there enough for him to be able to do that? Ajay Kumar.
You know, first question is, I'm absolutely shocked when people like Mr. Iyer, start quoting facts which are so awfully wrong. 2012 is when they increased their percentage. If you compare it to the Lok Sabha elections, and they don't seem to matter according to him, they have lost 63 assembly seats. We gained 63 assembly seats, they lost 66 assembly seats. But that doesn't matter to Mr. Iyer, because he thinks that the BJP did a good job. 3 months back, the lot of, and I say it with a great deal of angst, whether it's the TV anchors in certain channels, and not yours but others, who continuously try to deride and say, no, we are lost, it's going to be a huge majority. Yesterday's Chanakya or today's Chanakya said the kind of stories, the campaign which the Congress ran, and China and see also about divisiveness. Today's development, yesterday it was Aurangzeb and Pakistan. What nonsense are we talking? And casteism, when we raise voices of different section of society, that is casteism. Congress always allowed people of different voices to be raised. So let me assure Mr. Iyer and all of everybody else, strong wicket and no sir, at the end of the day, it is how you... No, one sec, let me finish, Shaina ji, let me finish. I heard your monologue, can you let me finish? When you were doing your monologue, I was quiet, so please keep quiet for my monologue. The other issue is that if you see the encouragement, the way we fought this election, like it or not, it has brought a lot of hope. And believe me, it's like Churchill said, it's not the beginning, it's not the end, it's the end of the beginning. What development Mr. Iyer is talking about, what GDP is he talking about, what growth is he talking about? Let's see what's on the ground. And if those numbers are totally off, there is a huge amount of rural distress. Gujarat was a stronghold. We need to get certain, we did get a lot of our organizational things in place. We will work on it. But the fact is that we are charged up, and we know that if we can crack their bastion and give a run for their money, despite a lot of people trying to write us off, and if we get the right leaders in the states and all that, where is BJP? It's Modi, Modi, Modi. And we ran a campaign, and I strongly believe that the numbers what you're saying, okay, 10 seats, less than 300 votes doesn't seem to matter to some of my distinguished panelists. That doesn't seem to be a great victory. Minus 66 seats from Lok Sabha elections. No, Modi is still great. I mean, there is a limit to which we can intellectually be dishonest on these issues. Are you losing 66 assembly seats post Lok Sabha? Is a serious issue. But yes, yes, but it's a damn good job, Modi ji. Keep going on. No,
okay. Ajay Kumar, I get your larger point there. I get your larger point there that it's down from 165. I get your larger point there. But let's not take this debate into another direction. No, Ajay Kumar, we can't take this debate into another direction.
I want to get to because let us
please wait. I will come to you and we will make stuff.
Why do we keep distorting facts?
Yes, we will talk facts. No, we are not going to distort facts. We will talk facts, but just indulge me if I'm trying to make sense of this debate. I don't want to let this become a BJP versus a Congress that has happened in Gujarat. Let's have a more meaningful dialogue. I will urge my panel to just help me put a meaningful dialogue on air. You know, we're not like other channels, and you yourself admitted that. Sadanand, I'm going to ask you this question. As far as GST and job crisis and demonetization was concerned, what does this verdict show you? Does this verdict show you that the impact of all of that was exaggerated? I agree with Ajay Kumar that rural Gujarat, the Congress has done very well. And you know, Saurashtra and those regions have voted for the Congress party. But look at the GST impacted belts of Surat and other regions, and that have voted squarely for Mr. Modi. What explains that? Does that explain the son of the soil argument, or does that explain the argument that both these factors, job crisis and GST, were a tad over-exaggerated?
I mean, I think it's very hard to isolate, right? And you know, it's always tempting for an analyst who to extrapolate in this direct line. So, for instance, if I think demonetization was a terrible idea, it's very tempting for me to say that, oh, look, and the BJP lost 15 or 20 or however many seats, it must be because it implemented this really bad policy. I think the reality tends to be more complex. You have a combination of economic issues and identity issues in the mix. But the bottom line in the end is that even if the disaster that was demonetization and an overly complex Babuized GST did hurt the BJP, it's very clear that it didn't hurt them to the degree that they actually lost the government. So at some level, I think those of us who criticize both of these things from a policy perspective have to keep in mind that from a political perspective, things do not always play out in the same way.
Swami, would you say that on balance, eventually it was a trade-off between the downside or the disruption caused by GST and the upside of whatever development that the people of urban Gujarat have seen over the last couple of decades, and in the end they voted for the Gujarat model of development? Would that be a fair way to interpret what has happened in urban Gujarat, and specifically in areas like Surat, where actually they've maintained their their lead? It's not even as if they've won marginally. Some of the seats in Surat they won by as many as 40,000, 50,000 votes.
No, I would not say that that's the right way to put it. The real problem is, yes, GST has hit some people adversely. Have you forgotten the number of people who have actually gained from GST? Do you know how many people are extremely happy that all those octroi checkposts have gone? Do you know how many businessmen are happy that their goods are able to move from Delhi and Bombay much faster than it was able to move before? Do you know how many businessmen there are who are very happy that earlier they were getting unfair competition from tax evaders, and now that particular thing has been leveled? So the idea that you only look at the fellows who were badly hit by GST and assume that this holds true for the entire business community is plain simple wrong. Anybody who thought that GST is bad for the entire business community has not understood what GST is or what the business reaction is. Overall business reaction is not negative. Just because you did have a vocal number of losers, yes, there were a large number of losers. Who says they were a majority? It is never clear to me that there was a majority. Equally, when it came earlier to the row about demonetization, when I went through rural Uttar Pradesh and before the last election and asked people, were you disrupted? They looked amazed. They said, we don't have 1,000 rupee notes. We don't have 500 rupee notes. So, I found that the standard thing on TV channels was the poor were badly hit by demonetization, but nevertheless voted for BJP. The rural BJP, UP I went to, they said we were not adversely affected. And we are very happy that Modi has become the first man to seriously act against black money. That's the kind of thing. So I would say both on demonetization and on the question of GST, let's remember that a large number of people have viewed it positively. Just because there were some losers, please don't assume that these were vote losers. On balance, it may well be that they were vote winners.
Okay, vote winners versus vote losers. That's an important differentiation there. But let me get a voice from Indian industry. And Rashesh, just on the point of GST pain being exaggerated, how do you explain the performance of BJP in Surat? I mean, that is where the belt of the agitation, that is where the belt of the anguish, the pain really was. And yet the BJP has managed to pull that off entire region very well.
Yeah, I think if you look at the way the voting pattern has been, clearly it appears that GST, there is not so much opposition and the chaos around that. I think the rural, voters maybe felt the pain of in demonetization a little bit stronger than the urban voters felt the pain of GST. But overall, we have always seen that whenever you do any structural reforms, there is always a year of adjustment and inconvenience and a little bit of chaos. And I'm happy that we got this out of the way. Going forward, I don't think the government will undertake any big structural reforms which involves inconvenience and disruption of any kind. So the good news on that is between now to the elections 18 months or 14, 15 months down the line, we should see things a lot more on the business as usual or status quo path, and that will be good for the growth, because growth always is a lot more possible in a stable environment rather than when the economy is going through some structural adjustments.
Right. Shaina NC, let's talk about the farm crisis and the vote of rural Gujarat. Out of 127 rural seats, Congress has won 71 and the BJP 56. The only way I read it is that the farm crisis is acute and that the BJP has probably been in denial over that.
Well, let me say that we will be introspecting on that, but I have to tell you I have travelled the length and breadth of Gujarat and rural Gujarat more than urban, and I can tell you 2-3 things. One is ours is the only party that gives 3 lakhs loans to farmers at 0% interest. There is no duty on electricity. For the first time, you have 24/7 electricity for farmers. You have all kinds of Shashaktikaran programs for their families, be it education, be it employment. Now you talk about even the Adivasis and the tribals. There are women who used to earn 8,000 rupees who have told us on record how they have earned 16,000 rupees in the record time span of 1 year. So I think that if you get the systems correct and if we do a detailed analysis to find out what were the reasons that we did better in Ahmedabad, Surat, Baroda, Rajkot, and why is it that we didn't do as well as expected in rural areas, we will come up with findings. But do understand there are lots of seats where the margin is not even 2,000 votes. So that really cannot be viewed as a referendum or a mandate. And we yet have to analyze which are those seats, were they the rural ones, where did they come, and more importantly in a place like Saurashtra or for that matter even Kutch, we know that what Kutch was and what Kutch has become only because of Modi ji's absolute innovation, whether it's 1 drop per crop, incorporating Israel's systems of irrigation, making sure that the best dates in the world are produced there. So there has been a lot of work which has happened. And after 22 years, frankly, for any government to sustain for 27 years in itself is a victory. Forget numbers.
Right, right. Ajay Kumar, I want you to come in on that. And the question really is that Shaina NC says that the rural vote is perhaps not a referendum on the policies of the government as far as farmers or the rural areas concerned. How would you counter that?
You see, what happens is it's very, what you call, incredible that when the BJP spokesperson come and rattle out numbers, 24/7 electricity, what are you talking about when you go to? So the questions when you throw these, these numbers, and I actually want to challenge Shaina ji after this show to send her a detailed report on the actual power situation. Narmada project was theirs. The UPA 1 and UPA 2 gave them the funding. They didn't still finish 60,000 kilometers of networking. And the fact is, if it was development, no, one sec, let me complete. And if you're talking about development and all this, then development nahi jeeta. The question is, why do they win in urban areas? Because it is so difficult to show their performance, and you can polarize voters, you can spread canards and stories. In rural areas, your development actually is visible because the development gap, and that's what we've been saying, that these are a bunch of guys with event management skills, and we'll continue to challenge them. And India is 70% rural. No, can I complete? You rebut when I complete, madam. The other issue is, yes, we need to fix a couple of things which, we need to do it. We need to be much more robust and stronger. We are doing it. I think Mr. Gandhi is leading in the right way on the ground. If we get our act in the ground much more robustly, their development is only in TV channels. There is no, I come from Jharkhand and I'm telling you honestly, it is in shambles. But the question is, we need to do a better job in agitating on the ground. Some of these edges have been blunted and we recognize it. Mr. Gandhi recognizes it. We recognize it. And for all those people who think so that if we are able to build and create a strong cadre on the ground, we will give them a run for the money. And that's our challenge. We did it a significant job. Mr. Gandhi led from the front in Gujarat. We need to do still better and better. Because at the end of the day, Supriya, they're house of cards. On the ground, you see their development is nothing. Before election, Aurangzeb. After election, Pradhan Mantri Vikas jeetega.
Okay. Ajay Kumar,
Kabhi he's jumping on a seaplane.
Okay, Ajay Kumar, I have to interrupt you there because, I don't want this debate to drift into a political tutu meme. That's never the intention of the India development debate. But just one point I want to make, if development was happening only in television studios, then surely the people of Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh would not have voted the BJP to power. But I take your point on the farm distress, and that's what I'm going to ask my panelists next. Sadanand Dume, the concern that I have is that this sort of a mandate and this sort of a vote against the BJP in rural Gujarat may force the government to look at political solutions to some of the problems facing rural India. The temptation will always be there to look at some sort of a farm loan waiver, a disproportionate increase in minimum support prices, something that we saw happen in the UPA that led to the entire inflation problem. Are you concerned as well that we could look at political situations, political solutions to some of these real economic problems in rural India?
No, I think that's a completely valid concern. And one of the lessons of 2017, if you sort of also factor in Uttar Pradesh, is that you have both the Congress and the BJP that are playing populist politics. This old distinction that, that the BJP was somehow less prone to populism is simply not true. They've been leading with loan waivers. The Congress platform in Gujarat, of course, was extremely populist too. They both have an element of identity where the Congress is stressing caste more and the BJP is stressing Hindu consolidation and, frankly, hostility towards Muslims. And so I think if you were to sort of extrapolate and look ahead, I think the lessons from this are exactly what you say. I think in policy terms, you're going to see more of a populist drift from the government, which would be, worried about 2019 to a certain degree. And I think you're going to see more of the same from Congress too. So if you were hoping that in the run-up to 2019, we're going to end up with a responsible policy agenda, I think that's very unlikely.
Swami, I'm going to pose the same question to you that, with the rural mandate, obviously against the BJP as far as Gujarat is concerned and the rest of India also battling a rural crisis, this is going to be a wake-up call for New Delhi. The apprehension on the street and the apprehension in the industry and amidst the investor community is that could this wake-up call push the government to be populist? Could it push the government to resort to things like a farm loan waiver, hike MSPs, just these band-aid solutions?
2018 is going to be virtually the last year of Modi's rule. The last year of any government's rule is marked by populism. I mean, there's nothing special about what Modi will do, as distinct from what anybody else will do. The question is, how populist will you go? And do you believe that populism is the clincher or performance? I think this track record shows very clearly that any number of governments in their last term who have just, given lots of sops in that last year, do they necessarily win those elections? And the answer is no. If it is not backed by performance, the idea that a few sops in that final year will tilt the balance is just not true. Nevertheless, as I said, will there be any radical structural changes that cause pain in the last year? I'm sure that will not happen. Mr. Modi will return to incrementalism, which will not create losers, and hope that the incrementalism ultimately adds up to something. An issue has been, in order to control inflation, after many years of big jumps in the minimal support for prices, that was then something that plateaued out. I would not be surprised if you see significant jumps once again in the minimum support prices for several items. That might be one of the things that happens. One of the things that encourages me is that although Modi had promised a farm loan waiver in UP, he did not offer a farm loan waiver in Gujarat. He had that much courage. The Congress, of course, offered a farm loan waiver. To that extent, you may say that the Congress was being ultra-populist compared with the BJP. I am glad to say that populism alone does not win elections. It did not win the Gujarat state election. It will not win the 2019 election. But let's just say that I would nevertheless expect to see the minimum support price going up. I believe there's something called a national employment program in the works. I have no idea what that's going to be, but the Modi emphasis on employment is going to be out there. And they will be looking to find various ways of enthusing those sections that have not voted for them. At the same time, I think Jaitley and Modi are very clear that good economic performance ultimately is what wins the elections, not last-minute sops. And so the emphasis, I think, will be on performance, even though there will be some sops.
Shaina NC, the question really is that this is a winner's verdict. Yes, it has gone your way, but it is nowhere close to what the BJP was estimating. It's nowhere close to the tall claims of 150. It's not even close to 115 that you did hold in 2012. The question is, will this verdict slow down the pro-market reform process? Will this verdict force the Prime Minister and his government to turn left of the center, even more left than they already have?
No, I don't think that's a correct assessment. If at all, it just shows you the acceptability of even GST, demonetization, etc. Because if you look at the urban voters, we've won Ahmedabad, as I said, Baroda, Surat, Rajkot, all the cities. Now, more importantly, the Prime Minister has the political conviction, and this assessment is absolutely correct that even when it came to farm loan waivers, the Congress even came up with the suggestion that they would implement it immediately if they came to power. Still, the BJP did not succumb. We do not believe in freebies, subsidies and SOPs as the previous government has, whether it's a Manrega or all kinds of SOPs to suggest that we will give you freebies, because our fundamental is that as a society you need to be empowered, and empowered means to be educated, to be secure, and to believe that there is something called empowerment financially of every individual through whether it's a job or whether it is a creation of something that you would want to do as a self-entrepreneur. Look at the amount of people who avail the Mudra banking scheme. Almost 70% of the beneficiaries were women in Gujarat. Look at Jan Dhan Yojana, look at Ujjwala reaching every single rural household, whether the LPG gas cylinders that were, kept in cold storage in the previous times, they were delivered to people's homes. The fact that you had in Gujarat, the dropout rate in primary schools during the Congress regime was 35.6%. It's down to 1.5%. So obviously we're on the right track.
Sure.
Infrastructure has been the only agenda, as is...
Shaina, okay, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you because, these are issues that we debated before the election and I'm sure on the basis of that people of the state of Gujarat have voted. But I want to get a quick word in from Ajay Kumar, which is the Prime Minister in his, speech at the BJP headquarters a short while ago. He said that this is a clear verdict in favor of the government's reform agenda. Right, so he's clearly said, and he spoke about GST and demonetization and how those reforms have been well received. I want to add to that, and there's one thing that Ajay Kumar, Congress perhaps deserves credit for. It's the fact that they have forced the government over the last 2-3 years to move more left of the center. And I'm not sure that's necessarily a good thing, but one Soot Boot Ki Sarkar jibe push this government more towards left of center when it comes to its economic thinking. So what you have right now is one party that's left of center, which is the BJP, and the other, which is probably extreme left of center, which is the Congress. What is the space that the Congress will occupy from now on to 2019 when it comes to economic thinking for it to inspire the urban electorate as well?
Look, first of all, a couple of data points to be checked. When Shaina ji says we don't believe in freebies, then what was Yogi Adityanath doing in UP waiving off loans? What was the Maharashtra Chief Minister doing waiving off loans? So this continuous, disinformation which comes so easily to the Bharatiya Janata Party is really remarkable. I mean, and I really get pained when we continuously don't challenge their absolutely false narrative. Loan waiver in Maharashtra, loan waiver in, and oh, by the way, we don't believe in freebies. I mean, they need to at least have the integrity on TV channels to say what's right and wrong. The other issues which we want to say is that the Congress party definitely believes that you need to focus on health, you need to focus on education. Nobody thinks that that's left of center. The idea that the education, and by the way, just Shania ji, just to your rich amount of disinformation, the women's literacy rate has dropped from 75% to 50% in Gujarat. So the question again is focus on health, focus on rural agriculture in terms of in terms of the farmer distress, make the farm and the agriculture industry more productive, and we will support you. Build more cold storage, make sure more processing happens, get those stuff in place, and we'll definitely, you'll find us as and we actually think about India, unlike them only just wanting to, think that the election is the only life and purpose of a political party. And you will find us supporting them in the issues which are critically important. But whether this is, you know, this is a government which is pretending to do a reforms, and the business community should understand. And we strongly believe crony capitalism is not reform capitalism. Crony capitalism is not, is not development at all.
Crony capitalism is certainly not development, and I do wish that the Congress and the BJP can join hands for the sake of development in this country. But Sadanand, I'm going to ask you the question about the pro-market reforms and what is going to be the inference that the BJP draws from this verdict. Do you expect a slowdown in things like Air India privatization?
You know, that was exactly the thought that crossed my mind. You know, to me, that's the bellwether. If they are able to push ahead after publicizing this heavily, it will show that they are quite confident about 2019 and they're going to continue with that, even though it will be controversial. I think it's a long overdue reform, and if they actually do it, it deserves to be applauded. That's the bellwether. I don't really know. It could go either way. I can imagine them going ahead. But in general, I would agree with Swami that heading into 2019, they're going to be a little bit on the cautious side. You're going to see things like higher MSP. You're going to see probably other forms of populism. And the fact is that the Congress party is under Rahul Gandhi, a leftist party on economic issues. And that helps drag the center of gravity of Indian politics towards the left. One last point. I don't think 2019 is going to be an election that is fought based on economic performance. I don't think Modi has enough of a record. He certainly hasn't created jobs. I think what we've already begun to see is a pivot to identity politics, which played a very large role, no matter what Shaina and NC says here, in the Gujarat campaign. And if I had to make a prediction, I think that the salience that development had in the 2014 campaign will not be the same in the 2019 campaign.
That's not something to cheer, is it? It's a worrying trend, if one may say so. But Swami, quickly, do you agree with Sadanand that, in a sense, Air India privatization is going to be a test case? And do you believe that they will have the stomach to push through? Obviously, I don't think anyone's expecting the government to move on land or labor reforms till 2019. But at least on Air India privatization, will they have the stomach to push through over the next 12 months?
Air India privatization is such a complicated thing. You know, it's going to become bits and pieces here. Maybe one little bit here is privatized and something else is not. I'm pretty sure that whichever entity has the large majority of employees probably will not get privatized because nobody wants to buy it. So as I said, there may be a little bit here, a little bit there. But I do not see Air India as kick-starting a large amount of other things. After all, Arvind Panagadia and the Niti Aayog had given a long, long list. Dozens and dozens of companies. Why are they not being privatized? They're not being privatized because Modi is an incrementalist. He's going to go bit by bit. I don't see him accelerating. In fact, I see Modi, there's a new wage legislation which for the first time apparently is going to prescribe a national minimum wage. I mean, till now, minimum wages have been set by state governments. And when you say, I'm going to set a national minimum wage, I mean, to me, this is sheer populism, ultra left-wing populism. It's not a shift to the right or to liberalization. I mean, in a country where kind of conditions in Bihar and kind of conditions in Goa are so totally different, to have one minimum wage for the whole country, to me, makes no sense, except if you're trying to win votes. So I said, I do not see any dramatic shift at all to the right. I just see a few incremental things. Just one last, I would say one thing on the question of the prospects for 2019. I would say, Gujarat has set a kind of example where the BJP can lose seats and yet win. I wouldn't be surprised if that is the template for 2019, when again, Modi loses some seats and still wins.
That's an interesting way of looking at this verdict, isn't it? From 115 to 199, but he still does win the election, hands down. But the question really is, and we've got to look forward with what happens next, and that has to be the union budget. And Rashesh, as one of the senior members of Indian industry, I must ask you this question about budget. And budget 2018 is going to be a decisive budget. This is going to be the last budget of the Modi government. Does this put pressure on the government to come ahead with a more populist budget in 2018? Ms. Swami has already alluded to some kind of competitive populism between the Congress and the BJP, but specifically talking about the budget, is there more pressure on the government to deliver a more populist budget come Feb 1st?
No, as I said, I think the government has been aware of the stress in the rural sector, and already in this year they have increased the investments in rural sector. So I don't think there'll be a knee-jerk reaction to this particular election verdict. But I think they will see the patterns in this, and I do believe that I don't think the coming budget will be a populist one, but the government will increase allocation for rural sector and social sector, and they will have to find the funds for that. And I do hope that they will find the additional funds through disinvestment, because I think 2018 might be a great year for disinvestment, as 2017 has been, as well as the GST and other things stabilize. Government tax revenue should also improve.
Okay, before I give the last word to politicians, let me just get a quick comment from both Sadanand and Swami on what to expect from the 2018 budget. Sadanand, you go first. Obviously, the simplistic interpretation of this verdict is that the government is going to go in for a populist budget. Like Swami says, typically most governments do when it's their last full budget. So would you agree with that estimate that they will go for a populist budget, like Rashesh says, probably increase investments in the agriculture sector? How does this have a bearing on budget 2018?
Yeah, I would agree with Swami. I think that there's an overwhelming amount of evidence on this, and in fact, I would look to the UPA's first budget in 2008, where they really pulled out the stops in terms of shedding any pretense of fiscal responsibility. I would imagine that we're going to see something along the lines. I would not be surprised if we see more loan waivers. I hope we don't see this crazy national minimum wage idea or something that's sort of equally disruptive. I hope that the lessons of demonetization is that the government, even if it does take a populist route, doesn't take a populist route that is extremely disruptive and destructive. But I think there's no question that Modi's upgrade notwithstanding, that we're going to see a government that's less fiscally responsible than it's been in the past few years. You're going to see a lot of focus on rural voters because they would have got that message from Gujarat. And I think if you're in terms of any kind of hopes for a serious reform program, I think we really need to be now looking beyond 2019.
Swami, I want you to come in on the fact that from now to 2019 or 2018, definitely in the budget, do you expect the government to push the pedal on economic reforms, or are you someone who worries that they will obsess too much over fiscal consolidation?
No. They definitely will not step on the gas on economic reform. As I said, they will return to incrementalism, small little steps, which can include a few populist ones. There's nothing wrong with incrementalism. I mean, incrementalism year after year for 5 years adds up to something. And it creates fewer losers. It's more gradual. So it's an acceptable way to go. It has yielded good results. So I would say the kind of incrementalism, with the exception of demonetization, everything else has been really incremental. I would expect that to continue with a little mix of populism. I mean, I'd be very disappointed if the budget declares suggests a loan waiver for everybody, as happened in UP and in Maharashtra. On the other hand, could there be a greater interest rate subvention? That in Gujarat they said interest rates at 0 rate for farmer. Might something like that be contemplated all India rate? Maybe. I don't know. But some kind of things like that would be contemplated. But I think it will be within the framework of Arun Jaitley's saying we are finally going to have fiscal consolidation and bring the fiscal deficit down to 3% of GDP. It will be 10 years overdue. The original target date was 2008. But I think he will finally come down to that. Because, there is no need for the BJP to panic.
Okay.
Yes,
Swami,
they need a little populism here and there, but by and large, performance has paid off. And the fiscal the gradualism, both on the fiscal consolidation and on the reform front, it has been a strategy that has paid off. Why should they change it?
Okay.
I think they will stick to it.
Okay, that's an important point coming there from Swami. There's nothing wrong in incrementalism, and both Swami and Sadanand say don't expect any concrete economic reform not until 2019. Shaina and Jayesh, I'm going to let you have the last word. But first to you, Shaina. The point that, in a sense, does this squeeze the space for economic reform? And do you agree that, that development is not going to be the core talking point in 2019, and that all of this squeezes the space for economic reforms between now and the 2019 elections?
Well, let me tell you, development is the only talking point, and 2019 is going to be a mandate for Prime Minister Modi again. I can tell you that every decision he takes is bold, courageous, and with the courage of conviction that he has, whether it's demonetization or GST, his only agenda is what is in national interest. And when he talks about national interest, even in the Gujarat election, the tagline was, we don't want to come to power just to be in power. We want to come to power to serve society, and that is the agenda with which the Bharatiya Janata Party has been leading. Nation first, party next, individual last. This is an ideology, but of course you need the political will and conviction for somebody to take bold economic decisions and reforms. So contrary to what the other panelists say, I don't believe that the budget is going to be about political posturing and about 2019. It's going to be about what is in the best interest of the poorest of poor and how do we include every segment and section of society, which has been the fundamental Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas.
Ajay Kumar, we'll let you have the last word on the show then. The battle is joined for the 5 states in 2018. I'm curious to know, what will the Congress's counter narrative to BJP be, and what will be your narrative? What will be your model of development? It can't be anti-BJP.
No, except that it is rich for China to say development when even Pakistan was telling them, please don't pull us into Gujarat elections. So that's very interesting. I just want to correct Mr. Iyer and say that, you know, you might be, we all believe in on economic TV channels that a great deal of reforms make a huge amount of political benefit. Fact is, Mr. Narasimha Rao, you know, had led to one of the greatest liberalizations. So those correlations are very, what you call, are very tenuous and not very sure to do it. What definitely impacts is price rise, inflation, and jobs. And most important, how strong the party builds on its ground. We, as a Congress party, some of the realization is that we need to be much more agile and active, and we did that in the, and I think Mr. Gandhi led from the front, but the Gujarat Congress did reasonably well. We didn't get to form the government, but we have started building the party back from what it used to be. And if we get that part of it, we'll give a run for their money. So work on jobs, get the organization in place, project good, experienced or young, whatever be it, leaders, and give an alternative narrative, and I'm sure, you know, we will give run for the money. And to predict 19 is Mr. Modi's, is it's like being, you know, what you call too smart by and a half. I think that there is still a year left. We need to get our organization in place, and in some parts of, we definitely recognize that. But I'm very sure that the issues will be jobs, the issues will be price rise and inflation. And last most important is the Congress gave a decent performance. We agree we lost.
Okay.
But and we congratulate the BJP despite their best effort not to say anything nice about us.
Okay, fair enough. On that positive note, we'll have to wrap it up then on this edition of the India Development Debate. Ajay Kumar Shaina, NC Rashesh Shah, Swaminathan Iyer and Sadanand Dume, thank you so much for joining us with your perspective on the 2017 Gujarat polls and the implications over the next year and a half. Whichever way you look at it, the best case outcome is that if this election helps put development at the center stage of Indian polity, if it puts development at the center stage of the elections in 2019, then no one's going to be complaining, may the best party win. Thanks for being with us on this special telecast.
Thank you very much for being with us. News, views and analysis continues as far as Gujarat is concerned.